Broadcasting from the world headquarters of the National Floor Safety Institute is America's slip and fall guy, Russ Kenzie.
This is America's slip and fall guy, Russ Kenzior. Thanks again for listening to my podcast. Here's a question for you. Did you know that almost every building you enter has the same type of flooring surface? Can you guess what it is? That's right, it's carpet matting. And although entrance matting plays an important role, a critical role, in containing dry soil and moisture from incoming pedestrian shoes, entranceway matting can also present a trip hazard. So as matting is used to prevent slips and falls, sometimes they reluctantly contribute to trips and falls. Joining me today is Dave Watterson, Senior Vice President of International Sales for M&A Matting, which is one of the nation's, if not the largest, one of the largest floor matting manufacturers.
Well, we're certainly one of the leading manufacturers of matting in the world, yes.
Tell us a little bit about who M&A is, what you do, and some of the products that you manufacture.
Well, M&A Matting started out as Mountville Mills back in 1963. Was founded by a local family in LaGrange, Georgia. It's still a family-owned business today. And we do specialize in manufacturing mat-only products or matting-only products. In 1999, we acquired the Anderson Company, and the Anderson Company actually was founded by Wally Anderson, who can be the rubberback matting can be attributed to him. He was the really founder and the father of the rubberback matting industry, and also father of the Waterhog mat, which is one of the best-known brand names in the world today for matting. Back in 2018. The companies came together and we formed the M&A Matting Company. So it represents two powerful brands, Mountville and Anderson, and we have nearly a century of combined experience developing and manufacturing mats designs to make environments safer, cleaner, healthier, and more comfortable. We manufacture a full range of products, matting products, from entrance matting to anti-fatigue matting to be used back in the factories and address ergonomic concerns. We have a full range of logo mats, and we've really been one of the leaders in the industry in developing new innovative products to really service customers' needs out in the marketplace. And as a consumer, when you're traveling around and visiting various locations, you notice that there are several different types of mattings available. And there's also different environments, different applications for matting. And we manufacture a broad range, probably the broadest range in the world to address some of the concerns that customers have with their floor surfaces.
Now, not all mats are the same, and entranceway matting is a specific type of mat that's designed to remove moisture and soil from incoming pedestrian shoes. But you make, as you mentioned, a wide range of matting, including scraper mats, wiper mats. Tell our audience what the difference between the various types of mats are.
Well, there's really kind of a matting system, if you will, that would be ideal for most commercial buildings today. And that would be an outdoor scraper mat, which would be the first line of defense to help reduce the soil being tracked into your facility. Then on the entrance, or the first mat in the entry system, would be a brush or a scraper type product that would further reduce the soil that would be tracked into your facilities. Then the traditional standard mats that again would just be finishing off the process, removing any excess soil or moisture that would still be on your shoes. And then ultimately, you'd have a logo mat, which could be used as advertising the business or branding their business or promoting their identity. So that's really kind of a four-mat system or a four-mat program that would be applicable for most businesses today.
Now, unfortunately, rarely, at least in my experience, do we see the matting system, the series of mats that you described, used, probably because most businesses don't really have a large enough entranceway or vestibule to accommodate multiple types of matting. Instead, they simply use a wiper mat, the traditional carpet surface with a rubber backing, and sometimes of varying sizes. So how does one of your customers know which type of mat is best for them, and how is it that you go about and your company goes about producing mats for entranceways that really meet the customer's needs?
Well, we do our very best to educate the consumer about the products. And for instance, a double door would require a wider mat. Most often would be a 6 foot wide mat to handle the traffic of a double wide door, where a single wide door would have, just a limited area, as you mentioned, where, a 3 foot product would be satisfactory in that particular application. Sometimes it's challenging for consumers because they're not the mat experts. They really don't know the differences between the products that are available uh, out there. And not all mats are created equal. Some mats are, have a different type of a backing, perhaps vinyl backing, or some kind of a composite rubber or a chrome rubber base. Some products have rubber backing. So there's a lot of different variations of matting. And on our website, we have an educational guide and program where consumers can educate themselves as well as our customers can educate themselves. And we do our very best to try to help educate the consumer so that they get the right mats and the right application. And that's really a critical component of providing a safe, healthy, cleaner environment, is having the right mats and the right application.
Now, how does your customer or just any property owner know how much matting is needed to remove soil or moisture from incoming pedestrian footwear? I know there's been a lot of opinions from those in my industry, individuals representing themselves as expert witnesses. But realistically, for example, if you have a small vestibule and an entranceway of an office building, and it just simply cannot accommodate a large sequence of mats. So therefore, there's kind of a limitation on size. How do you go about, or how does your customers, or how do property owners really know how much matting to use in their entranceway, assuming that's for the purpose of removing, again, soil and moisture?
Right. Well, in a perfect world, and this is according to the ISSA, which is the International Sanitation Supply Association, or Sanitary Supply Association, they suggest that 15 feet of matting will reduce approximately 85% of the contaminants. I believe that number is very accurate. It does present some challenges when the environment doesn't allow for 15 feet of matting. So therefore, they would need to use products like the WaterHog product, which has a bi-level construction. So it knocks the soil off of the shoes, and it filters down to the bottom of the product so it won't be tracked into the facility. Or an aggressive type product, which is the classic brush mats, which are very good at being aggressive to remove the soils off of shoes. So that's the way consumers would, when they have a limited area to place mats in, that's one of the ways that they can use matting more effectively to keep their facilities safer, cleaner, and healthier.
You mentioned the WaterHog. That's the is that the mat that looks kind of like a waffle pattern on the top? It's got a kind of a checkerboard appearance. You mentioned bi-level. It's got two different levels of the mat itself. Is that the mat I'm thinking of?
Yes, that's the WaterHog, and the WaterHog Classic is the traditional design, which does look like a waffle pattern.
Okay.
And it's been very effective removing soil and debris off of the bottoms of people's shoes. It's a heavier mat than traditional matting, so it stays in place significantly better than most products. And it has a more of a rigid construction, so it lays extremely flat.
Now, in the world of matting, there's different types of backings. You mentioned several of them and different weights. The heavier the mat, the more likely it is to be stable and less likely to flip over, buckle, curl, that sort of thing. But is there a standard thickness for mats? Is there, the typical carpet mat with a rubber back that you see in almost every entranceway? Is there a standard name for that, or size, or weight?
Well, I'm not sure that there's a standard name or size for that. Our company uses a 52 mil construction in the interior of the product and 42 mils on the border of the product. So the borders are a little bit thicker than the interior of the product, which helps the product lay flatter, and kind of serves as a little tray to retain, a limited amount of moisture and debris on the matting surface. So there's lots of different backings that are available. There's some suction back matting that's available. They're heavier mats, and it just really depends on a lot of outside influences. The environment outside, what kind of traffic pattern you have entering your facility. Those are some of the factors that would be considered when deciding what type of matting would be best suited to meet your requirements, matting requirements.
Now, you mentioned suction cup backing. I'm familiar with that. I've seen that in the past on a wide range of mats. But I've also seen different types of backing textures, from smooth to patterned, and then cleats. Mats that have the little bumps or nipples on the backing of the mat. Is there a preferred type of backing for a preferred type of a floor? Is that why there's different backing textures?
There are different backing textures, and in a perfect world, you'd use a smooth back on hard floor surfaces, or smooth floor surfaces like concrete or wood, or some of the vinyl tiles and vinyl flooring that's very prevalent and very popular today. On carpeted surfaces, the preferred backing would be the universal cleat pattern, which has little rubber nubs which hold onto the carpet and provide some stability on the carpet today. It is one of the challenges that all mat manufacturers face, is that developing the right product for the right application. There are so many different floor surfaces out there, and there's so many different types of commercial carpet. Some of it is loop carpet, some of it's cut pile carpet, and various different components, either nylon or polypropylene or some of the other products that are available. So sometimes the cleats are more effective on one carpet than the other.
Well, it's interesting. A number of years ago, the NFSI did a research project for one of the rental mat trade associations, and the question that they raised, which was the basis of the study, was what effect does cleaning floor mats have over time on the backing, specifically the backings that have these little nubs or cleats. Obviously, a rental mat company is bringing a particular product out to a customer. That mat will be in place for a week. The rental mat company will retrieve the mat, pick it up, put a new mat down, and then take the soiled mat back to their facility for cleaning. And so, you're looking at a weekly cleaning per mat, and oftentimes floor mats can be used for many years. And so the question was asked, well, what effect does repeated laundering of floor mats have on, specifically on the backing? And I'll be honest, the end result was a bit surprising. What was found is that the more a floor mat was laundered, the greater the traction became over time. In other words, as those mats were laundered and worn, the little cleated buttons on the back of the mat actually saw an increase in coefficient of friction over time rather than a decrease, which again was a bit surprising and not necessarily intuitive. A lot of people think, well, if there's these little nubs on the back of the mat and you put it on a hard surface floor, it won't perform very well. And the research actually showed the opposite, that cleated back mats actually provide the same, if not in some cases better, slip resistance or traction than that of a smooth back mat. And so it was a bit of a surprising result. And I know your industry spends a lot of time and a lot of energy working in the area of safety and slip resistance, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. But if you have a customer that says, look, I'm not certain if I need a mat, should I put recessed grates in my entranceway or some, just simply install carpet tile, walk-off tile. What's the better alternative? I mean, what's the best advice you can give a property owner as to how to go about selecting an appropriate entranceway product?
Well, I think, again, they would have to determine what their environmental concerns are outside and what their traffic patterns are, which would make a big difference in their product selection. I will say that all types of matting, whether it be mats that are sold through a janitorial supply house or whether it's mats that are supplied by rental laundries, all mats have to be cleaned to be effective. If they're not cleaned, they will be a source of contaminants to track throughout the facility. And frankly, in sandy soil conditions on hard floor surfaces, if you track in the sand and the mat's not clean, it'll really can be a source of slip and fall accidents once they step off of the mat onto the hard floor surface. So cleaning is one of the critical components, whether it's a product that they've purchased or a product that they rent from a rental company. Cleaning is one of the most important aspects of keeping your facilities clean and also providing the safety factor. The mats have to be cleaned, simply have to be cleaned.
Well, and you mentioned the safety factor. One of the things I have seen in my experience, again, in the expert witness field, is improper use of mats, where a particular entranceway mat will become saturated due to inclement weather. People are coming in, wiping snow or water off of their shoes. And over a period of time, the entire mat becomes saturated, becomes wet, and loses its effectiveness as far as removing soil. And so let's talk a little bit about how mats can be used to prevent slips and falls, what types of techniques, procedures, for example, removing a saturated mat, replacing it with a dry mat. But also, mats do present a potential trip hazard. So what's your view? What's your thought on how end users can go about properly using mats, not only to prevent slips, but to ensure that people don't trip on them as they're coming in or out of the building?
Right. Well, there's a lot of questions in your question there, and let me try to address it in this manner. Mats provide a tremendous amount of benefits for the consumer. Their primary benefit and the major reason that consumers or businesses are interested in matting programs is to provide a safe environment for their customers and employees. So I think you could make an argument that mats are definitely a safety feature and a safety system, if you will. So, from time to time, we hear that people trip over mats, and there's no question that that's accurate. There are certain situations where people can trip over mats. Usually they're improperly placed. Sometimes customers will roll up a mat and use it to prop open a door, which definitely is not the intended use of mats, and that can definitely create a clean or a tripping hazard. Years ago there was the American Sniper movie, which many people have seen, and they asked the sniper whether he thought about all the people that he'd killed during his time in war, and his answer was that he believed that he chose to think about all the lives that he'd saved, not the people that he'd killed. And I think that's a pretty good analogy for the matting world. That I'm sure there's instances where people have tripped and slipped on mats or mostly improperly used mats. But I can promise you that mats have reduced more slip and fall accidents and injuries than they've ever caused. So it's an injury prevention system, in my opinion. It's just like airbags. Airbags, they prevent injuries and accidents. Certainly people have been hurt by airbags. There's no question about them, but they've saved far more lives than lives or injuries than they've caused. So that's kind of my opinion on that.
It's a good point you make. Every product has its upsides and potential risks. I can't tell you how often I get a call from an attorney regarding a trip and fall injury on a floor mat, and they basically sue everybody, including the floor mat manufacturer. And I ask them, well, why are you suing the manufacturer of the floor mat? Are you alleging there was a defect? And they'll say, no, it's just that, the floor mat manufacturer should have done something. And of course, it raises the question by me of what do you expect the floor mat manufacturer, who's in a different state, to do? If in fact the mat hazard was that was created at the point of use, meaning at a particular location at a particular time, absent any physical defect in the mat, this really ultimately is a maintenance issue, meaning the property owner's failure to observe the mat, to inspect the mat in a timely fashion, and to make sure that the floor mats that they're using are, as you mentioned earlier, lying flat. They're not buckled or curled, or don't have any edge ripples, that sort of thing. And if they get delivered by a rental mat company, not the manufacturer, but a third-party independent rental mat company with, say, edge rippling, well, that the property owner needs to simply refuse the mat. Once they accept that mat, it becomes kind of their problem. They receive it, and they are now in the chain of custody. They're liable. So it becomes a difficult subject from time to time, and people like to kind of blame everyone. And that's not to say people don't legitimately trip and fall on floor mats. I have worked on dozens of cases where there were legitimate concerns about the floor mat use, but almost all the time, most of the time certainly, it's the responsibility of the property owner to ensure that they're using mats in a safe way. And as you mentioned earlier, your company actually has a recommendation procedure on your website as to how to use mats. But at the end of the day, there is upsides and downsides. Now, there's this new generation of floor mats that is taking hold, and that's the low-profile kind of self-adhering mats. They come in a roll. You roll it out, you cut it to size. I know your company manufactures one, and they're becoming more and more popular. Let's talk a little bit about how that type of mat would have applicability in areas where the thickness of the mat and movement of the mat is such that they want to ensure that the mats are not going to create a trip hazard and that they're not going to move, or what's called migration. So what's going on with these new self-adhering mats?
Well, the self-adhering mats, sticky mats, if you will, they are really a component of a good matting system. And they're not for use in every single application, but they certainly do have their place in the marketplace. And they can be used in conjunction with rental mats, or in conjunction with mats that people have purchased at their janitorial supplier. So it's a very low profile product, and some of the benefits is that it's low profile. It has a sticky backing, so the mat stays in place. You can cut the mat to size. I think that's one of the really good benefits in it. So for instance, if you had a very small area that was prone to moisture, such as around an ice machine, something like that, you could cut the mat to size to fit that particular application. Or if you had a long row of a produce section, for instance, a produce section in the supermarkets, you could cut the mat to size to fit the product or fit that particular application. So I think that's a huge benefit of it. One of the other benefits of the adhesive back products is it can be used as a temporary matting solution if inclement weather is on the horizon, or you have a construction site that next door to your facility where they're tracking in dirt and moisture, creating slipping hazards by the sand and dirt alone. You can put down the adhesive back matting on a limited basis, and it's a great temporary or emergency matting source for you. You know, you mentioned about mat manufacturers and the safety issue. Uh, our organization is very, very safety conscious, and we do our very best to provide injury prevention systems and matting products that enhance people's lives, not hurt people's lives. We're all about trying to make the world a better place, all about trying to make people a better place. You know, lawyers and attorneys, and certainly the litigation and the lawsuits on slip and fall and trip and fall accidents is much more prevalent today than it has been over the years. You know, I would venture to say that in all probability, it's that issue is going to get worse, not better. And everybody can calculate the cost of a slip and fall accident or a lawsuit. We can always calculate those costs. What we can't really calculate is the really effect that this situation has on people's lives, how it really can permanently injure them and damage them. And that's a huge issue. We're very conscious of that, and we do our very best to, through manufacturing excellent quality products and through educating our customers and our sales reps and sales teams throughout the country and throughout the world, frankly, on the proper uses of mats and the proper benefits of mats. One of the other things that we have done is we've been instrumental, as well as other mat manufacturers, in developing the NFSI B1016 standard guide for commercial entrance mattings that's designed to help reduce slip, trip, and fall accidents in the marketplace. And in the guideline, it gives some suggestions on, you know, what type of matting to use in different applications, and it also addresses when to take products out of service, you know, and what to look for, and you know, to try to create safer, cleaner, healthier, comfortable environments for the public. And that's what our goal is to reduce slip and fall injuries, which, as you well know, is one of the leading causes of injuries and accidents in the world, especially with the baby boomers and the aging of America. This problem is going to be more widespread as we move forward. And that's one of the areas that I think the SureStride adhesive back matting is really gives us the opportunity to service kind of the healthcare sector, their retirement homes, you know, where slip and fall accidents is a huge issue. And so is, you know, rain and snow and things like that being tracked in on floor surfaces, and combining with some of the waxes and or finishes that are on the floor, it can certainly create a very slippery and dangerous arena. So this product gives us a real opportunity to address one of the biggest concerns and most challenging mat applications in the world today, and that's in the healthcare sector.
We know you mentioned the NFSI B101.6 entranceway floor mat standard, which has been published for, I guess, 7 years. You're the chairman of the subcommittee that has authored that standard, and I'm aware that it is going under a revision, and so it'll be republished with some updates next year. But that standard, would it be fair to say, represents the industry standard, the standard of care for floor matting use throughout the United States? Is that a fair assumption or statement to make, that is the standard for floor mat manufacturers and users of floor mats?
I think that's safe to say that is the standard. And as you mentioned, it is certainly going under some revisions. You know, our goal and the other people that are on the committee, which includes other mat manufacturers as well. Our goal is to improve the standard and improve the education process to the public and consumer to help prevent accidents before they happen, to help improve the quality of people's lives in the marketplace. And, those are really the primary benefits of mats. There's a lot of other benefits too, but to prevent slip and fall accidents and injuries, I'm pretty excited about that and believe that our industry as a whole does a really good job in reducing people's liabilities and improving the quality of life for people. As a consumer, I believe most people could probably relate that they go out to facilities or, in their everyday travels, they've walked into facilities after it snowed or rained outside, and or perhaps somebody spilled water on the floor and they've hit an area and slipped. I mean, it happens frankly quite frequently. And that really is an area that matting would significantly improve and reduce the liability for the customers there. So if that happens to you as a consumer, when you walk into a facility and you slip, I think it's your responsibility of being a good citizen to bring that to the management's attention and suggest that they need to address that, either clean up the water supply or water spill and put down the proper matting so that it doesn't become a continuous dangerous situation for, again, their employees and customers.
Well, and again, having a standard in place kind of levels the playing field for everybody, whether you're a floor mat manufacturer, a rental mat company, an end user, or even those who work in the legal profession. Having good, reliable standards makes a big difference. For example, prior to the development of the B101.6 standard, the requirement was that floor mat backings be slip resistant. And unfortunately, the term slip resistant was never defined. How did you know? How would anyone know that a particular backing of a mat was slip resistant when there wasn't a definition? There wasn't even a test method. So it was very ambiguous. Today, that's changed. The B101.6 standard actually references another NFSI standard for testing the coefficient of friction, what's called the transitional coefficient of friction of back mattings. And it's generally a pass-fail test result. I know your products, and frankly, I think most, if not all, of the commercial matting products that your company produces passes that test and are NFSI certified as high traction. In fact, your industry has widely embraced the NFSI product certification concept for floor mat backings. And I guess under the new revision, the term slip resistant will mean high traction. High traction is a term that's used in the ANSI and NFSI standards. And so in order for a floor mat to be compliant with the slip resistant requirements, there's going to be a bit of a language change, and I applaud it. The term slip resistant has been grossly misused, misunderstood for forever. I mean, the International Building Code uses the term slip resistant for walkways. Again, they don't define the term, so how would a property owner know that their walkways are slip resistant when there's no testing protocol or methodology? And so there's an evolution in language, and frankly, your industry is one of the leaders in doing that. So, terms like slip resistant will be replaced by phrases like high traction, which are defined within industry standards, specifically the NFSI standards, and it provides not only a good guide for product selection, but a level playing field. So if somebody's going to allege that a particular floor mat backing was unreasonably dangerous, there's now a methodology of validating that claim and actually testing it. And your company, and frankly, your industry has been a leader in this area of producing higher quality, safer products, as you mentioned earlier. So, but with that, is there anything that I missed?
Well, no, I think you're very accurate. And, earlier in the conversation, we talked about, are all mats created equal? No, all mats are not created equal. And this is one of the things that sets us apart from many other mat manufacturers that don't have the NFSI certification, high traction certification. And, what that basically means is that our products have been tested under various different applications and through different testing methods, and they've performed and held up. And I would say there's more products on the market that are not certified as high traction, so they haven't gone under any type of testing program. So that's kind of a buyer beware issue. And a lot of imported products certainly have never gone through the test process. And the components of the product, I think, could be, you can make a very good argument that some of the components of imported products would be suspect and not meeting the standards of the NFSI high traction standards.
Well, again, that's a good point. Having standards benefits everybody. And if there's a particular manufacturer that doesn't comply with the standards, or in the legal field, the standard of care, then I guess that does expose them to liability. And sadly, what you said is true. Not every manufacturer does comply for whatever reasons. And it does create a bit of a dilemma for the end user. We've been speaking with Dave Watterson, Senior Vice President of International Sales for M&A Matting, on floor matting and the use of floor matting. How would somebody get a hold of you or one of your salespeople, Dave, if they have an interest in learning more about your products?
Well, our website would be the best way to learn more about our company, our products and services, which is www.matting.com. And certainly there's a contact information on there for me, as well as some of our other salespeople. My email address is dwatterson, WATTERSON, at mamatting.com. And you're welcome to contact me if you have any questions or if I can be of help in any way.
Well, thank you. And thanks for coming in today to speak with our audience about your product line at M&A Matting, but also about the bigger issues surrounding floor mat usage and hazards that are oftentimes related to floor mats. This has been America's Slip and Fall Guy, Russ Kenzior, thanking you again for listening to my podcast. And remember, don't let your next step be your last.